please visit my website, programtokill.net. Go to plans and prices for even more exclusive information. You can also support me now on Patreon. Add me on TikTok. And leave a like and comment.
I saw what the system did. I saw how it treated children. I saw how it treated adults. It doesn't work very well. It didn't work for either side. And now everybody, it's a very safe side to be on, saying, gee, these poor children went through hell, and they did go through hell. But I am not the cause of their hell, neither is my mother. Nothing that happened at preschool is the cause of their hell. The cause of their hell is the product of the adults who took on this case and made it what it is.
How did this case get started? To understand, we have to go back to the summer of 1983, to the mother who made the first complaint about Ray Bucky to the police in the Los Angeles community of Manhattan Beach. She said Bucky had molested her 2.5-year-old son at the McMartin preschool. And according to the files of the prosecution, she fed the police information about photo sessions involving naked children, trips to faraway places, and bizarre sex acts, stories she attributed to her son. Glenn Stevens was a deputy district attorney in Los Angeles 5 years ago. One of his responsibilities was interviewing that first complaining mother and evaluating her charges. He was surprised with what he found.
She was psychotic when she started the case. She was paranoid. She was schizophrenic. She had delusions. She reported at one point that her house somebody came into her house and even molested the family dog.
This same mother made phone calls to other parents of children who attended the McMartin school, asking if their children had been molested. And the police in Manhattan Beach, they arrested Ray Bucky, but they had to release him for lack of evidence. And then they sent this letter to 200 McMartin families. In it, they named Ray Bucky, and they asked parents to question their own children about possible sexual abuse at the preschool.
That is the letter that started the witch hunt going.
The letter understandably panicked the parents. So the DA sent them and their children here to Children's Institute International, CII, to be interviewed. What you're watching is a demonstration of the CII interview technique using puppets and dolls. And CII's technique produced astonishing results. 85% of the 400 children they saw, they reported, had been molested. Word of these results quickly wound up on television.
Authorities now believe that at least 60 young children were victimized, and that the ultimate number could well be much greater.
Reporter Wayne Satz of KABC in Los Angeles broke the story in early 1984, and he reported how the children were terrorized into silence.
And terrified because of what was allegedly done to animals in the children's presence. The maiming and killing of rabbits and other animals, often with the warning that such would be the fate of the child's parents if the secrets were not kept.
The local media coverage set off an avalanche of publicity. In the press, magazine, network news broadcasts, as well as on the highly regarded ABC News magazine, 2020.
Up front tonight, the sexual abuse of small children.
How a seemingly harmless nursery school allegedly became a sexual house of horrors.
My God.
It was after the local media explosion in March of 1984 that Ray Bucky, his mother, his sister Peggy Ann, his grandmother, McMartin School founder Virginia McMartin, and these 3 teachers were indicted by a grand jury and arrested on over 300 counts of molestation, rape, sodomy, and conspiracy.
If you can imagine a heavy woman like me dancing around without clothes on in front of children, anything you can think of. I'm supposed to put my vagina in a child's vagina. I don't know how you do that, but any dirty, nasty thing you can think of, they accuse me of.
While most of the defendants were eventually released on bail, a series of judges agreed with the DA and refused to grant Ray Bucky bail. Only after 5 years was he finally released on bail last March, one of the longest pretrial detentions in U.S. history. Ira Reiner is the district attorney of Los Angeles County.
Why put them in jail? Mike, what I am not going to do is to rehash the details of the trial. We have a verdict from a jury that we're going to accept. That's not rehashing the trial, Mr. Reiner. I'm trying to understand the justice system.
You put a man in prison for 5 years, his mother for 2 years. What were they going to do if they were out? I'm at a loss to understand why you did it.
Well, first of all, when you say we did it, when I took office, this case was in progress. They were already in jail.
Your office fought any and every effort by the defense to have even a $3 million bail set for Ray Bucky.
Yes.
Why?
Well, look, there was...
Was he going to go out on the street and start molesting children?
At the time, it was felt by the lawyers involved in the case, as well as the judge in the case, that initially bail should not have been set, and when it was set, to have set it very high.
Should he have been in pretrial detention for 5 years? Should his mother have been in pretrial detention for 2 years?
At the time, it was felt that he should have been because of the concern for the kids.
In retrospect, Mr. Reiner.
In retrospect, who can tell in retrospect?
In fact, some of the information the court used to justify holding Ray Bucky without bail was criticized by Ira Reiner 3 years ago on this broadcast. That information came from videotaped interviews of the children done at the Children's Institute. Interviews that Ira Reiner and later the jury in the case described as their #1 problem.
What we had here were the social workers in questioning the children, asking very leading and very suggestive questions of the children. They'd have little Bobby sitting there, and they'd say to Bobby, did the bad teacher touch you in a yucky way in this place right here? And Bobby would say, no. And they would push a few times, and Bobby would continue to say no. Then they'd say, but wait a minute, Johnny has already told us that this happened. Now, you're just as smart as Johnny, aren't you? And after a little bit of this, then maybe Bobby would say, okay, he'd nod his head, yeah, it happened that way. What you have here is a situation then where hundreds of children had been questioned, and then this material is turned over to the district attorney's office. The district attorney then, at that time, without any investigation whatsoever, none at all, turns it over to the grand jury for indictment purposes.
Assistant District Attorney Lael Rubin has been lead prosecutor in the McMartin case under both District Attorney Philibosian and his successor, Ira Reiner. Were hundreds of children molested at the McMartin school, sexually molested?
Very large numbers of children were molested at school. I mean, I don't see that at this point, whether one says it were 50 or 100 or 200 or 300, that really is beside the point at this point in time. Because what is the issue is that children were molested at this school.
But
whether there be 2 or whether there be 100.
Oh, wait a minute. If there were 2, then it wouldn't have gotten the attention that it got. And you were the lead attorney pushing this, not just inside the preliminary hearing, but outside in the halls, too, and talking to the press.
Well, what I talked to the press about outside in the hall was, for the most part, about evidence, testimony that had already been presented inside the courtroom.
Deputy DA Lael Rubin told UPI many of the children said they were taken from the school to other locations where still and motion pictures were made and the youngsters, quote, were offered up to strangers for whatever purposes, close quote. You believed that when you said it and believe it now?
Absolutely.
You told the press, Miss Rubin, that the discovery of rabbit ears, a cape, and a candle were corroboration of the satanic aspect of this case. Right?
I was quoted as saying that. That's correct.
Still believe that?
That
there are satanic aspects to this case?
We did have testimony at the preliminary hearing about some activities that I suppose one would refer to as satanic.
We asked Rubin why none of the children, their parents or pediatricians, had ever complained about molestation before the case broke.
Do you really think that there are doctors out there who 2, 3, 5 years ago, pediatricians who really were trained to examine young children in their genital areas? Many of the doctors suggested other alternatives or other reasons for pain, discomfort, urinary infections, vaginitis, all sorts of other problems.
Is it possible, Ms. Rubin, that they are better trained to understand than are you?
Well, they're medical doctors and I'm not, but what I'm saying is that not only they, but parents and a lot of other people in this case, we're not willing to believe and accept that in fact children were being molested.
And it is this man, Raymond Buckey, and his mother, who are still facing scores of charges of sodomy and rape of children under 14. Raymond Buckey has been held without bail in Los Angeles County Jail for the last 2.5 years.
Why are you talking to us now? You've never spoken to a reporter before, is my understanding.
No.
Why are you talking now?
I think it's time.
Why
I think the tide is turning where people are stepping back out of the hysteria that grew out of this and looking at this. Wait a minute. There's too much here that can be disproved. And we want to see that person. People want to look at me, because I think everybody believes that they can look into someone's eyes, and if I was the monster that I've been made out to be, everybody would have known it.
You never, repeat, never had anything of a sexual nature take place between you, Ray, and any of these children?
Never.
Let me read you what the kids say, couple. You've seen all of this stuff. Did Ray put his penis inside your mouth? Yes. And did he put it inside your butt? Yes. Did it hurt? Yes.
I think some of the children have actually come to believe it happened. They've been told so many times, they've been reinforced by what they were led to say from the very beginning, that they can get up on the stand and say, yeah, Ray did that to me. Well, how did he do it? What position you're in? I don't remember. They can't give you any specifics because it never happened. To be led to say something at that young of age and to believe the adults that are around you that are reinforcing you to say it, you're going to believe it after a while.
They've dropped the charges against 5 of the defendants. It's only you and your mother who are involved now.
Yes.
Why?
You know, you've got to have a scapegoat. You kept 2 people in jail for 2 years. You're going to back off now and say, oh, sorry, they're innocent too? It's an amazing fact how you can have the same evidence and the same children testifying against all 7, but you can say there's weak evidence against 5 of them.
No, the evidence is not the same. Not all of the evidence was compromised by CII and their process and their techniques of asking leading and suggestive questions. As you go through the tapes very carefully, you will find some of the statements made by the children have a great deal of specificity and detail to them. Many of the statements are very spontaneous. And not in every case did they put words into the children's mouth. There are 2 people of those 7, Ray Buckey and his mother, that we are convinced upon carefully looking at the evidence that indeed they did molest these children. We know what's going to happen if you're found guilty by a jury.
Yes.
You're going to go to prison for a long, long time, obviously.
If I survive in there.
What do you mean?
They'd mark me. They'd mark me if I'm free or if I'm put in prison.
If you're in prison, you're afraid that something could happen to you at the hands of the prison population.
I'm not afraid. I'm aware of the reality of prison.
And if you go free?
They've ruined my life. I've watched them ruin my family. I've watched them ruin my mother and grandmother's lives. I've watched them ruin my sister's career. I was just starting at that school. I hadn't made up my mind of what I wanted to do in life. But they burned a scarlet letter on me that I can never get rid of. I don't know what kind of life I would have. I can't trust people anymore because I've seen too much of the politics, the corruption, the evil, the anger, the ignorance.
Nonetheless, Ray Buckey and his mother, Peggy McMartin Buckey, go on trial this month in Los Angeles. The 5 women are free of all charges, but not of all taint.
We all would like our names cleared. And that, to me, is almost second to, I think people have to know what happened here. I think people in the world need to know this was a witch hunt, that nothing happened at the school, and it could happen to anyone. Because it can, and it has been. It's happening all over the country. Because of this case, it has happened everywhere. And if people realize nursery schools aren't places where children are being molested and raped and sodomized, it doesn't happen. It didn't happen in ours.
I believe in this case, and I believe that horrible crimes occurred at the McMartin preschool. And that's what I intend to argue to a jury.
Convince these people in Manhattan Beach who marched after the not guilty verdict. They marched, they said, to reaffirm that they believed the children, that they believed the children from several preschools in the area who disclosed how they were abused.
We have 1,400 disclosing children in this community. 1,400 children in this community have been ritualistically abused. 8 schools have been shut down. 1,400 children. I mean, doesn't that hit you?
These people are not quite all on kilter. We're talking, they're believing nationwide conspiracy, ritualistic satanic abuse, pedophiles in preschool settings, and gee, we didn't find one scrap of evidence in a nationwide conspiracy to back that up. That's their belief. Every teacher in Manhattan Beach is a child molester. Every preschool that was ever closed with allegations, it's a conspiracy to child molester. You listen to them, and they're talking witches. That's plain and simple. That's what they're talking.
This was a case that involved the molestation of some children. It was blown massively out of proportion to become the case of the century. It was nothing of the sort. It is simply a case of some children, a few children, over a period of years being molested.
Wake up, America. This is your wake-up call. The system perhaps was served, but justice was not. We believe the children because once upon a time we were the children, and nobody believed us.